This episode is sponsored by JDAQA Software Testing, your scalable solution for manual, automated, security, and performance testing. Check us out at jdaqa.com. And with that, let's get on with the show.
This is The First Customer, hosted by Jay Agner.
Hey everyone, welcome to the First Customer Podcast. My name is Jay Agner. Today I am lucky enough to be joined by a wolf, Chaz Wolfe. What's up, brother? Welcome to the show.
Wolf.
How are you? The Wolf. The Wolf. You should just go by The Wolf. I love
The
that.
Wolf.
CEO and founder of Gathering the Kings, has Gathering the Kings podcast, has a million different things going on.
Yeah.
You know, father of four, just an all-around awesome guy. Chaz, I really appreciate some of your time today, brother. Thanks for being on.
It's a pleasure to be here. An honor, actually. I had such a great time with you before. How could I have not returned the favor?
Yeah, I think we got a good thing going here. Let's keep it going. So, look, there's a million things online. You obviously have a great online persona. People
Sure.
could just go online and find the boilerplate information of who Chaz is. I think you even have a video that says, "Who is Chaz?"
That's right.
So, there's no question who you are. So I'm going to come at this from a little bit of a different angle. I'm going to kind of dig in a little bit how you got started, and then we'll kind of meander a little bit through how you built this personal brand that you've got and some of the other kind of cool things you got going on. So where did you grow up, and did that have any impact on you being an entrepreneur?
That's an interesting deal. I grew up in Columbia, Missouri. I live in Kansas City now, just a couple hours away. And so did that have an impact? Yes, but I would say the reason wasn't necessarily the location. It would be because I grew up single mom family. And so I didn't meet my dad till I was 24. He didn't even know I existed, which is a whole interesting time for another podcast. But I grew up single mom family. And so, she worked 2 and 3 jobs my whole life, and grit and stick-to-itiveness and freaking commitment. I just did some reels with my team this past month or so, talking about just the things I learned working concrete at 14 when all my friends went to the pool, But that's, yeah. So did that turn me into who I am? Yeah, I'm a freaking winner is what it is. And now knowing my dad, he's got multiple businesses. So I think I have a little bit of that in the DNA, but also then the environment of which I grew up in was obviously just like, hey, if you want anything out of life, you're going to have to just reach in and grab it.
Yeah, I love the old nature versus nurture
It's
argument or conversation is a wild, ride, but it sounds like you got a bit of both.
Yeah, you could flip it upside on its head. I think my dad, he's a veterinarian and a farmer and a cattle rancher. And I think he would have said medically that before I met you, 75 environment, 75%, 25 DNA. He's like, but after meeting you, it's got to be the opposite. He just was shocked, like, oh my goodness.
There's got to be something to the, it definitely is a big part of the makeup of who we are, right? Is where we came from. So again, you are a master at the personal branding. You have developed and curated a very masculine, very leadership-oriented, very kind of high-level personal brand. Now, I'm not going to ask how you did that, but what I am going to ask is a two-part question.
Okay.
How would you tell somebody who's just starting out, younger in their career, how do they build a personal brand? And the second question, is that any different from somebody who's had a career, go to start their business in their 30s or 40s. They've got some experience doing some stuff. Is there any difference in building a personal brand between those two?
Yeah, there is. And so for the 20-year-old who's listening and is like, how do I build a personal brand? I mean, they could go online, and they should. I mean, everybody should be online if that's what we're talking about, personal brand. But my first answer to that, actually, Jay, is going to be that the personal brand starts offline. And so I think that what that looks like is integrity, doing the things that you say you're going to do. Even as a 20-year-old, I remember winning. Like, I wanted to be the best at my position. In fact, 20 years old, I was working for State Farm Insurance. I was not college educated. I could not become a claim rep. I had to be a claim processor, and then that was it. I had to be there for 3 years in order to move up because I didn't have a college education. If I'd had the degree, I could have just moved up. But like a couple months in, I'm the fastest processing claim processor. And I'm asking, hey, can I get the rep books? I want to study. And they're like, no, you can't. I know. But I want to read the books so that way when I am, like, I want to go. Like, let's go. And so I think that spirit of excellence, doing what you say you're going to do, doing things at just a high clip is what the personal brand starts as, because that you're just developing your identity of what you want to be known as. I mean, that's what we talk about brand. Like, what are you known for?
Mm-hmm.
So that translates online. So yeah, when you're 30, 40, 50, starting a business, or maybe you're in the corporate arena, this is not unheard of for someone who doesn't even own their own business, but they're, an executive of sorts, to want to have an established brand. They can be a thought leader in their space. What does that look like? Well, it's a continuation of what I just talked about, who you are in the office or what you are in your business, how a customer interacts with you, right? What do they see? Do they see good communication? Do they see you doing what you say you're going to do? Like, what does that look like? Are you funny? Are you serious? Are you intense? Are you like, what is it? I don't know. And so those things have to kind of be figured out, but you can figure those out things, along the way when you're working in the business, young or old. For the ones that have experience, to kind of maybe pinpoint on your older folks, they just have experience. And so they're going to have stories to tell. They're going to have pieces to be able to pull from that they can share with others, whether it be on a podcast or they have their own podcast, or they can, shoot a video. I've got a client of mine. She runs a $5 million moving company. She had no personal brand, doesn't do any coaching, doesn't sell any online services. She just started doing one Instagram reel a day, like, 15 months or so ago. And she has not missed just that one reel every single day. And she's got 25 or 30,000 followers on Instagram now. And she's considered a thought leader. She wants to do a TED Talk. It's not like she's trying to become an influencer or someone that sells courses and stuff, but it's the same thing that we just got done talking about. She did that consistently, just doing the things that she's normally doing in her business. She's just happened to be projecting it online, just expressing the stories that she has this immense experience in.
A great point. And you see a lot of people on LinkedIn and elsewhere kind of struggle with identifying what to be a thought leader in, right? And so this woman, just to use that example, was, CEO of a moving company. How did she become a thought leader, or what did she become a thought leader in? Because that's kind of important, right? Because it's very easy to just go, well, I learned how to, do outbound email. So I'm going to go write some LinkedIn posts about it. And like nobody, you hear crickets, right? Because nobody gives a shit if you're just like some guy who runs a business and you just write some stuff up about something you did that day, right? You're not becoming a thought leader, and you're competing against people. That's all they do is, using that example, an outbound email marketer is going to have 100,000 likes and comments and follows in their stuff because they know what they're talking about and they're respected in that way. How do people kind of identify what they can be thought leaders in, and how do they kind of push that message out so people will listen?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of questions that you're asking. How to identify it? Well, I mean, the easiest way is just to look at what are you good at. That doesn't necessarily have to be the end all be all, but it's the easiest place to start because it flows out of you. So I'll give you an example. I've been in sales, building sales teams, for 20 years, and I'm only 36, like literally. So sales is in my blood, from retail sales to phone sales to in-person sales. I've done it all, and I've done it all very well, and I've built teams, even for big names like Grant Cardone. So it's like, it made sense when I started building my online profile that I was talking about sales. Now, do I want to be the next Grant Cardone? No, I don't actually want to help people specifically with sales. That's not just my only area of genius. It just is the one that I can talk about for hours and hours and hours. And I know I'm right. I know the formula, and I can help anybody with my eyes closed and my hands tied behind my back. So it's just easy and it flows out. Now, that's not the brand or the identity necessarily that I'm trying to portray over the course of the long haul. So you can just get started is my point. Find the thing that you're passionate about, or in this case, I'm not necessarily passionate per se. I just know it really well. I know that I'm an expert. Okay, great. I can give in this area. That's what makes me a thought leader, is that I can give valuable things in exchange for your attention. That's what it is. Okay, so over the course of time, though, you can start developing, an identity to your brand, and that's above maybe practically the skill set that you're referring to. And so I'll give the brand, and then I'll come back down. So up above, you've got maybe like brand identity or lanes, and that might be more so associated to I want to win, or I want to help people win. Just more generic, a little bit more of like, what is my identity? So I know I'm a builder. I do things with excellence. I'm a pretty intense individual, but once you get to know me, I can be a little bit funny, and we like to go do fun things, but it's got to be like a really intense fun thing. Like I just told you before we hit the record button that I'm going whitewater rafting next week with some folks in Colorado from my group. And it's like, can we go to the area where we almost might die? But the reality is that's just who I am. Okay, cool. So underneath that, then I can create practically that, okay, I'm going to talk about like our matrix. Like, okay, well, we're going to talk about our Gathering the Kings events, and we're going to talk about helping people, from an entrepreneurial journey perspective. And we're going to talk about what it's like to, be surrounded by other mentors or mentees or peers. Like these are some of the matrix things, like practicals that we're talking about that fits into the brand identity of, I want to win. I'm freaking intense. Let's go. Rising tide raises all ships. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You mentioned something about starting a podcast in there. I'm going to ask the non-traditional question. Who shouldn't start a podcast?
Ooh, good. Well, you shouldn't start a podcast if you don't want to have a podcast. Right? I'm just a firm believer that you should do things that you want to do. And so here's the caveat to that is that sometimes we do things that we don't want to do because it helps us get what we want. So even though you may not be saying, well, I want to start a podcast, you might have a business or you might be wanting to start a personal brand that might help your business or whatever the bigger goal is. And in order to get there, it makes sense that you start a podcast. You know how many thousands of phone calls that I've made, cold calls over the years that I didn't really want to make, but I knew that it was going to help me get what I wanted. That's focus or discipline. You don't have to necessarily love it. But for the ones that want to start it, again, I would ask them that same question. Why do you want to start it? Because just talking to people randomly is okay and fun and probably fits a lot of personality traits for certain profiles. But unto what? So that's one of my other questions is unto what? Why am I doing this?
Right.
I can't just randomly have conversations. Okay, so for me, Gathering the Kings, I interview 7 to 9 figure business owners because I know deals will happen from 7 to 9 figure business owners. It doesn't mean that like deals for me, like not clients, although that has happened. I just mean things happen. Like I know when I get amongst peers, things happen. They invite me to be on their show, or I do a deal, or maybe they become clients, or we fly somewhere together and take our families on a cruise. Like literally four families just did that I met on my podcast. Like how that none of that would have been possible if I hadn't have just started a podcast. So the second piece though is like know why you're doing it, I guess.
Yeah, no, those are great answers. Switching up a little bit, is there a bad time to start a business?
I say that transactionally, right? Because business is obviously not just about money. But the reality of it is that we all started it to get resources. And some of those resources are dollars and that take care of our family and can help us do other cool things. Some of those resources are time. We want to build a business because we want more freedom. Okay, fine. So we want all these resources. Is there a bad time to start the business to go after those resources or AKA your dreams? No. Now, I can think of strategic things to be thinking about during different seasons. Right. Sure. We're on the cusp of potentially the greatest blah, 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 blah that may or may not even happen. We don't know. Like you could go find both sides of the story of we're just like crushing it versus it's all going to come crashing down. So either way, right. What's going to happen? I don't know. I learned this lesson in 2008 when President Barack Obama became the president. As an adult, that was the first time that a Democrat had been a president. And I was pretty young, and so I wasn't necessarily like thinking about strategy, like what did that mean to me individually? But like a lot of people around me like, oh my goodness, just like, when Trump was in, all the Democrats, oh my goodness, everything's going to change. And from 2008 until now, we've had pretty wide swings in who's in the office. And you know what? I've still been winning. So is there a bad time? I'd say you should probably determine what it is that you want. And you should be willing to do whatever it takes to go get it, no matter what external circumstances there might be.
Yeah. I mean, that's the right answer. Right. I mean, if there is a right answer, that's the right answer. It's stop making excuses.
Hopefully there was some...
You always find one. You'll always find an excuse if you want to find one, right? The economy's bad. I want to stay at this job because I need health insurance, which I was just talking to somebody about another podcast, is not nearly as big of a deal as people make it out to be. Yes, you need health insurance, but to get it on your own as a business owner versus like staying in some shitty job that you hate because like
Right.
you need health insurance is like is maybe the biggest fallacy about
Yeah.
being a business owner. Like you can go get insurance. Like it's not going to
Yeah.
kill you to pay for insurance. You're going to make way more money by having your own business and having your own insurance than going out and just sticking with some shitty job you're being underpaid at. But I don't want to digress there.
No, but let me say one thing there, because this is
Yeah, go
something
ahead.
that struck to my wife and I just a couple years ago. You're 100% right. So if you're listening right now, Jay is giving you like, it's like, you just got to look at the numbers. Don't be caught in the frame of what you've always been told, is really what Jay's saying. Okay, so even further down than that is a healthy couple that never goes to the doctor, ever. And so guess what I don't have is insurance. Now, I have some like group blah, 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 Christian something or other, If I really get in a pinch, I got something there. But look, I got enough money to where if something were to go bad, really bad, maybe not, I don't know. But here's the deal. We're healthy. We pay attention to what goes in our bodies. We take care of that machine. So a couple years ago, when my wife had a miscarriage, this is not something that we could have stayed away from, or, it wasn't our fault per se, but she about bled out, like straight out, one of the scariest moments of my life. And it's 2:00 in the morning. I'm calling the ambulance and they're whisking her away, and she has multiple surgeries, and thank goodness she's okay. And all is well, other than obviously she had the miscarriage, and that was just a really tough time. We get the hospital bill. And as you can imagine, it was $40,000 or something like that. Right. And they're like, oh, but you're not insured. Oh, well, it'll be $3,000. I said, great, here you go. And we walked out. So like, why was I paying $1,000 a month in premium? So $12,000 for the year when this is the first time we've been to the hospital in ever.
To support that point, we had a similar situation a few months ago. We had a miscarriage, which, as we both know, that's not a fun thing to do. But I can tell you, my bill was around $3,000 too, and I have insurance. So just to support your story, just to support your story there, it doesn't necessarily pay to be paying for insurance every month, but it is a very, it's a very common thing for people to go, well, I need my benefits. I need my insurance. I need my, I mean, like, dude, like stop you're just making excuses. Just go start the business you want to start today. Well, and speaking of that, what was the absolute, real first business that you started?
Yeah, well, my wife and I go back and forth on this because she makes fun of me. I consider my first real business my lawn care business when I was a teenager. I had invoices, okay? I wrote them out. I collected money. I did the deal, but it wasn't very much, as you can imagine. My first, big boy business. I bought my first Edible Arrangements franchise. I was 24, turning 25. I left my 6-figure sales manager opportunity that I had already been crushing for years, took some money that we had saved, and I left. All security, all insurance, and all benefits, and all 6-figure monies coming in on a 2-week paycheck period. And I said, I'm going to go do this entrepreneur thing. And so I bought an existing business, but I didn't pay myself for a long time. I ended up taking that one location to 7 within 4 years, all in my 20s. And that was a crazy ride. I still own a couple of those today, but I mean, when I was talking about being intense earlier, it's like, I only know how to go all in. It's just,
why did you go with Edible Arrangements?
That's a good question. I looked at for about 18, 20 months or so, like no joke there. I looked at franchises. I looked at service companies. I looked at furniture. I looked at smoothies. I mean, you name it. And none of them just made sense. And I'm not a widget guy. Like, I have learned that there are, the E-Myth calls them technicians or owners. And so the technician owner, or the technician who's out there wanting to run a business, is more concerned about the widget. Like, what are we doing? What are we selling? What's the day-to-day? And I've just never been like that. Even before I even understand what those terms were, I just wanted to sell and grow and win. And so for me, I didn't care if it was fruit baskets, which I don't even really care for fruit, or if it was moving or smoothies, or I almost bought a 2-location dry cleaners. Like, none of that mattered. It was more of a, can I win in this model? So I had obviously sales experience. I knew that I could learn how to do the functional, like make a basket. So I know how to dip the fruit and cut it up and make it look pretty and stuff. But I wasn't planning on being a mom and pop, owner. So I quickly learned that and then elevated to, how do I go get corporate deals? How do I go secure a second location? How do I do a third location? Because I was just more concerned with growth. So it was a brand that allowed for that.
And was it a franchise or was it a kind of a one-off that you bought?
The one individual location that I purchased, it's a franchise. It's a national franchise.
Okay.
There's probably 1,000 of them nationwide. And so I bought the first one. It was an existing. And then I bought the second one. It was existing about 6 months later. I built the third one a year later. I built the fourth one a year later. And then 4 and 5 were a year after that, built brand new. And at the same exact time, I bought number 7. So all within that 4-year period, bought 3, started 4, 3 different states. So it was a lot of logistics, a lot of team building, a lot of places that I couldn't be all at once. And so that stretched me thin and taught me a lot of lessons.
Would you recommend somebody buy a franchise of any sort? I mean, is that a good way to start if you've never owned a business?
I would say yes. I mean, I look back at my journey and what I needed as a 24-year-old kid who didn't go to college, who didn't have anybody in my life able to teach me about business. Like literally nobody. I mean, I had me, Think and Grow Rich, and Patrick Lencioni. Like that's how I started. And so the franchise system, which allowed me to, again, it kind of depends on the brand, but it allowed me to, kind of ride the coattails of national marketing. They took care of the website. I really just had to focus on operations and then local, knowing what I know now in business. And I've been successful in multiple industries. We've got multiple real estate companies. I have a remodeling business. Obviously, Gathering the Kings is where I spend a lot of my time now, which is a peer-to-peer mastermind group and events and the podcast, the whole deal. And so I don't think I would ever do a franchise now, knowing what I know, because I like to build. I don't need those, pieces any longer. But for somebody who's leaving a corporate job, someone who's has no background like I did, it's an easy on-ramp. Now, I also say that with tongue in cheek because it's a 10-year commitment on a franchise agreement typically. So I say easy on-ramp, but it's like it's a contract.
Right. That's a hefty amount of time, but a good, I've heard plenty of people, Jimmy John's franchise, another friend of mine, just cutting your teeth in business, moving from the 9 to 5 world. It's not a bad place to start, except for maybe I heard Chick-fil-A, you have to actually be the manager and you can only do one location and you can't do anything else. So like your opportunity to kind of expand and grow at a place like that. And, I love Chick-fil-A, by the way, if they want to sponsor the show, that's fine. But, I think, you do want to make sure you keep your eyes forward and down the road a little bit when you're doing something like that. Give me 3 things health-wise as an entrepreneur, daily, weekly, whatever it is that you do to keep your longevity up, right? I mean, we've got kids, we got businesses, we got stuff. I want to be 80, picking up my grandkids and great grandkids. I don't want to be in a wheelchair and a walker at that age. So longevity is big to me. What do you do on the physical and maybe in the mental and emotional side to kind of keep yourself tuned up?
Yep, exactly. Well, every day I'm working out. Well, 6 days a week I'm working out. Every day I'm doing breath work. So I do a Wim Hof, 30-second or 30 in and out with a breath hold in between. That's every day. And cold showers every day. I mean, that started out years ago as like doing things that are hard, right? It wasn't like I want to live to be 100, right? It was more of what are the things that I can do on a regular basis that build discipline, that are not easy, that also have some sort of a benefit to me, mentally, physically, whatever that looks like. And so now is more of my focus of how does this affect me in my body, right? Like I analyze everything that I eat. That hasn't been always the case. I've always had a sugar tooth. I love our cheesecakes at Edible Arrangements. They're the best, but I haven't had one of those in a long time. I haven't had any sugar in probably 2 months because I've just been dialing that in over and over going, I'm just getting a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And so hopefully that's a message to the listener of you definitely don't do it all at once. I think for the last probably 5 years, maybe 6 years, I've been eating, 70, 80% like paleo, meats, greens, nuts, maybe even a little bit more than that. But I like me some cookies. I like me some cheesecake. Yeah. But the last 2 months, I haven't had any. Like literally, I said, you know what? I'm not going to eat one thing that doesn't serve me. Again, because you just, over the course of time, whether it's breath work, whether it's, working out, like I can remember years ago, I just needed to start working out. And at that point, it was like, I'm just going to do it 3 days a week. I'm just going to commit to 3 days a week. And the other days, I could slough and I could be tired. Then it went to 4, then to 5, now to 6. And then it's like, okay, well, while I'm there, what am I doing? Am I being precise about what I'm working out? Am I really am I gaining weight? Am I losing weight? Am I gaining, what am I doing? And so I think it's just the dial that we just continue to turn of mastery, self-mastery, mind mastery, business mastery, all of it, right?
No, I love that. Well, and I hope people heard that. It's not overnight, and it's very easy in our, you know, glamorized social media world for people to seem like they've been doing everything they've been doing for their entire life and they've never, strayed off course, and they've been doing just, you haven't had a cookie their entire life, which is usually bullshit, right? So I'm glad to hear some realness there and that answer that, 2 months is 2 months, right? I mean, 2 weeks is 2 weeks. 2 days is 2 days. So you got to start doing stuff somewhere. And I'm proud of you for taking that leap, because damn sure if I don't have a sweet tooth myself, brother, it's something I fight with. But I've been tracking everything I've eaten for, I think, since early 2021, and it has been game changer for me just to know everything you're putting in.
Exactly.
And it definitely has an effect on the output that you're able to kind of give everybody else. So let's wrap with this. One final question. Non-business related. We'll even go non-mastermind related, because you're not cheating me out of this one. I want to hear a true answer. If you do anything on earth, anything, and you knew you couldn't fail, there's no chance of failing, what would it be?
The first thing that comes to my mind is achievement orientation. Is that the lane that we're in?
I mean, I don't even know what that means, brother.
Okay.
Achievement orientation.
Yeah, like something that I need to achieve. So like if I could go do anything.
Sure. Or a bucket list item that you're kind of afraid maybe you'll die. What? Just give me something that if you knew you couldn't fail, what would it be?
That's making me think. I think that there's this, well, my answer is what I'm already trying to do. And so I'll answer it like that, but with a caveat, I guess. I want to become the best version of Chaz. Like, I'm trying to meet that guy every day, every week, every month, every year. And I know that 20 years, 40 years, 100 years from now, who knows, I'm going to meet, just continual versions of him. And so it's a little bit, because I know that's going to happen. So it's not like I'm not going to fail. I am going to fail. But the two things that popped out inside of that journey were, I want to be on stage and I want thousands of people to go, dude, thanks for all that you've done. And I want my family to have the same sentiment. I want them to say, you know what, Dad, or, husband, you've just taken such great care of us. You've been here for us. Like, just well done, I guess is really what it is. And so it's just, again, achiever based, If I can stand in front of the crowd, my wife, my kids, and the people that I'm associated to in business or podcast, whatever, and their response to me is, well done or thank you, then I know that I've done the thing, I guess. It's the best way to say it.
Love it. Beautiful. What a way to end it. All right. I knew it was going to be a good time.
Yeah.
You're always a good time, brother. How do people find Chaz? I mean, I know they go to chazwolfe.com, and I know they, can go to gatheringthekings.com. Tell me, what's the best way for people to find you and to find Gathering the Kings or any of the other things you're working on? How do you want them to find you?
Yeah, absolutely. chazwolfe.com, gatheringthekings.com. Either one of those are fine. I'm probably most active on Facebook and LinkedIn, both just Chaz Wolfe. I'm the Chaz Wolfe. No, I'm sure there's another one out there, but none like me. So yeah, they can find me there, especially if they are a business owner that has humility, that wants to grow. They're grateful, but not done. They know that they've done some cool stuff, but they've got a long way to go. And almost the sentiment that I just shared of like the journey of becoming the best version. If that's you, then yeah, we would love to chat with you. Maybe about the mastermind group, maybe about even being on our podcast as a guest, maybe just running circles with you.
Well, you do have a lot of cool stuff going on. You're a cool guy.
Thanks, man.
I'm glad to know you, Chaz. Thanks for being on, brother. I'll talk to you soon, all right? Thanks, buddy.